Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves an album from an act named itsALLCAP titled Will to Grow. And if we switch over to here, this album with 12 tracks, it's from an artist that I've reviewed before. Now as I understand it, and feel free to correct me if I'm mistaken, this is a newer direction for them. They're working on a new sort of area as a musician, and this is their work in regards to that. We're going to be listening through all of these 12 tracks from start till finish. We're going to hear what we think. Starting with Excited, track number 1, I should also note there are lyrics provided by itsALLCAP for this, which we'll check out in the little conclusion sections. But yeah, let's go. It's an intriguing intro. Great development here. Interesting tone now. Great repetition of that melody on the main. Back to that lead on top of the guitars.
I'm smothered in it, and I'm fucking sick of being sick.
There's a really grainy texture to that track overall. Just before we go into Divide, we're going to do a little mini conclusion thing beforehand, but that kind of grainy texture that remind me of a lot of early 90s kind of grunge band and alt rock bands there. Not just Nirvana, but others alongside it. I like the start of it. It's an interesting sort of intro to a track there. The juxtaposition between talking about being excited and the tone of it sort of sounding like we're sick and tired of it. We'll talk about it more in a moment. So my understanding of excited is that we're trying to sort of like meet our own expectations, live up to our own ambitions of trying to be a certain kind of person. And you get the impression that we're kind of smothered in that dream, that fantasy of getting there. And we're trying to be positive and trying to make the most of our life. But we're also just really tired and we're having to make a lot of sacrifices in order to get there. And to be honest, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to how exhausting it is, not only to try and sort of function in this world as an adult, right? But also to kind of come to terms with the realities of our existence on this planet and our responsibilities and everything like that we maybe don't consider whilst we're dreaming of that end. It's an earnest, honest performance from the singer. They communicate quite well on the mic. Not all words come through clearly, but I think part of that is simply because we're sort of trying to meet a relative sort of, not necessarily melancholy, but a sense that we're trying to sort of communicate the exhaustion that we feel through the track itself. The melodies sound like we're in some pain, not because it sounds painful to listen to. I mean it in the sense that it's more that we sound like that we are exhibiting that we have been struggling with this. We're very honest in our expression there. And when you combine the awareness of making interesting melodies, for the vocal melodies were intriguing, and the way that we had the verse and sort of chorus leads which were a bit more deliberate, kind of come together and harmonize with one another. When you combine that with the lead guitars on top and those choruses, the kind of shimmery, chimey kind of leads, with the grittier, distorted guitars on the side, with the bass line chugging along at a quarter note groove and the drums moving ahead again with the kick, snare, hi-hat patterns, you have the fundamentals of that kind of grunge alt rockish movement there. But itsALLCAP is trying to make it their own, and I appreciate the fact that we're letting the person know immediately as soon as they get into this album what we're in tow for. The production is pretty tight so far, though I do appreciate how it's being done. It's not overproduced, it's not sterilized. It's very kind of raw and there's a bit of a rough edge to it, but in a way that is quite satisfying and makes sense for the genre. But I've got Divide, track number 2 next. Interesting use of ninth chords in that previous track as well.
Take me where those which you brought me.
And rides.
Make me let you home. Say something that makes me feel special. I may have heard before. Grateful for something that's deep down inside of me. Makes me speak from my core. For your name's sake, I am faithful to make that look.
Nice work coming on the other side there.
Create your stories and make your fables. Debate what you desire. Lost something deep in the crevices. I'll come to them, I'll be thine. Search no unobservable universe for something I'll never find.
And that vocal fry there is fantastic.
Relax and unwind. Our labored wait is today. Take my time to slow the demons. I may have made my mistakes. Put your name upon a pedestal. Say what we have to say. What makes you feel minuscule? Taking what you can take. Take me where those words
Great switch up here.
brought me. I am nature's home. Say something that makes me feel special. I may have heard before. Lost something
It's so heavy with the compression, but
something I'll never find. Conquer, then I'll be thine.
cool. Fantastic. I really like the drums and bass in that one, as well as the really kind of pushed chorus there with how heavy those guitars were. So this one's interesting. Divide, track number 2. I'm not really sure what comes into the fray with the nature's horror part. We could be talking about ourselves as humans in general or ourselves as an individual, but like I get the impression that it's talking about sort of our own authenticity, our own self, and what we will eventually like we go something at the end, almost like we're trying to find all these different reasons to exist and to do things, and it's whatever we kind of make up in order to justify it, but inevitably we will just conquer and then divide effectively. So whatever sort of rationale or predispositions we have, whatever rationale we give ourselves for the actions that we make, eventually we're just all going to sort of come to a point which is similar. We're all just the same when it comes down to it. I don't know, I have to think about that one for a while. I think Divide was a cool track though. I liked the use of the ride cymbals at the start there, how the speed of it and how it worked really well alongside the 16th note grooves, the strum parts on the guitars there, the clean guitars. The groove alongside that on the bass later on the track there was funky and it was fun and it had a great sense of pace to it. The use of the louder guitars in the chorus sections in this track, they pumped alongside the sidechaining of the kicks and stuff in the mix there, with the vocals still retaining a presence. So I assume therefore that was intentional, and it was a great sort of change of overall aesthetic and atmosphere from, again, those quieter verses. So we had the dynamic range down. So I think it was it was a well-written track. There was our contrast within there, and the bits of vocal fry we had there from the singer as well were great there. I enjoyed that bit of extra kind of angst and kind of like force behind it. And I liked it was different to what we had in Excited, therefore invoking and understanding that there will be range within the performance within this album. Even though we have similar textures that help to connect the album as a whole, we are still trying to make each track unique. So I look forward to track number 3, which is Flush there. But I think just, yeah, the relative minute... Oh, and the strings coming through. There were like strings on the other side, if I'm not mistaken, than the verse sections. The verses were split into, and the strings came through on the other side there. I appreciated that effort there to make that intriguing there. The slow build of that on the other side of the zero field, kind of filling things in there. It was really satisfying. Great use of sound design. But yeah, number 3, Flush. That is there. It's great when it's used for kind of a flaw like that. That's deliberate. Double kicks? Great work taking the guitars out here.
See
Shredding on the flush part. Yeah, really great use of the side panning there, really extending the stereo field. Okay, cool. Interesting. I liked the use of the positioning of the instruments and the mix in specific, like the start there going between the side and then the center there, that kind of A/B testing there. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I think Flush, after reading the lyrics, is about someone who is trying to flush all of the kind of the negativity and the kind of things that they've got sort of inside of them out of their system. They're trying to purge themselves of that. And I think that is cool. I think that's a cool thing to talk about. I hope that if it's something that the musician is going through, they're able to do that. I think that everyone should be able to find peace. The track itself is intriguing. There are guitars, there are bass and drums again, but I like the use of double kicks in this. The mix-up of the 8th and 16th of those double kicks was great. And there was a sense of groove, some of the offbeat accents as well there, whilst also retaining a focus on those flush parts of the hook line there, getting that hook line stuck in your head. I think it's great repetition of those words there. That was really cool. Bass line kept up similar sort of like functionality as previous tracks. The guitar parts there, almost like boom, boom, ba da da boom, and a catchiness to the main sort of riff. And there was some interesting bendy bits in the later half of it that were continued and bow, 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 bow. You know, like there were power chords, and then there were parts where there were just bass and drums, and there was, you know, variety with the actual perception of the loudness of the track there, in part due to the guitars being absent. There was variation with the instrumental layering that was kind of cool. And the track never stayed the same for too long, even when we were repeating words like okay, etc. It's simply, we found the right balance, I think, between trying to do too much, enough of like a hook line or a key statement to get it stuck in the person's head and make it sort of rhythmical and sort of like fun to listen along to, whilst not overstaying its welcome. We understand the balance there. It's really cool. And again, I think after hearing this as well as excited, and with Divide being pushed in those chorus sections, as well as just like the understanding of like how we're panning different instruments, going to the far sides for some recordings, sticking in the center for others, we are clearly aware of what we need to do in studio post-production in order to get the effect we needed. So therefore, I'll just assume that any kind of pushing or sort of like over compression is like a deliberate thing. So I think that's a really good place to be in. I'm happy with the album so far. There's some interesting stories, but we've got What Feels Right, track number 4. Super fuzzy guitar tone for this one, eh? Almost like synthy kind of stuff, right? We sound comfortable on the mic.
Inside of me, I don't think too much. I still the same old enemy, deciding what feels right to me. So I say my goodbyes, crippled thoughts of complex distortion, watching ripples reach out to orbit. Bet you get nauseous, bet you get nauseous, bet you get nauseous, I bet you get that every dollar, but still need more than ignore the problems and then the bullshit. Make it make all sense, take away all sense, make it make all sense, take away, take it out, leave it in, feel it down in my skin.
It's very satisfying between these different sections. They transfer really sweetly.
Breathe again. Really hoped you'd lie to me. Break off what's inside of me. I don't think too much. Still the same old enemy, deciding what feels right to me.
Full response with that melody there. That note there.
I cannot stand in your way anymore. I will just stay in my place on the floor.
Excellent. No, again, that was just another satisfying short form track at 3 minutes there with no filler, and that transferred through its sections really effortlessly. So I think that what feels right is talking about our own responsibilities as human beings, what our own values and ethics are, what we would do unto others, and as others do unto ourselves, etc. Like trying to sort of keep things relatively equal, but then like later on discussing another person who is just quite clearly pulling all sorts of BS, potentially just not acting in the best interests of the people around them. I'm not sure if it's like a political comment. I mean, I don't mind either way. Clearly, like it's good to talk about that kind of stuff in music. It's just, I'm not sure whether it's a political thing or just like an actual like a person who's in charge of something or whatever, or it could be like about different people. But either way, I just think it's an interesting sort of inspection of people's own expectations versus what actually other people think of them, and it's about that sort of self-awareness or maybe a lack of it from other people. And just, I think we inevitably get to a point where we're like, oh, screw it, forget it. We're just gonna have to just be that person out on the floor. We can't expect this person to actually care about us the same way we'd want to treat them. So it's an interesting story, and I think that it's told in a way where it's like not too aggressive, but it's also, there's a clear irritation on behalf of the singer. They're clearly frustrated with them, even if they're not trying to sort of like oversell it. They're just so tired and sick of their stuff, sick of their shit. But the track itself, there is sort of a bohemian kind of, it's using a particular mode. I think it's using the one with the natural sixth or something like that, the minor with the natural seventh, if I'm not mistaken. But it's an interesting feel to it. It's not too minor, but you can tell there's like a sort of a minorish sort of lean to it. And you've just got these movements between, again, these tight guitar, bass, drum lines there, moving into the really fuzzy guitar we had at the start there. Really sort of distinct sections within the piece there. The vocal performance is present throughout there, and they find a place regardless of the different levels of intensity and the accompaniment. And I like the call and response with the guitar melody that bends at the end of each of the first two lines of each sort of chorus run. I thought that was really cool. So we're doing the fundamentals and more with that as well, so it's really cool. We've got number 5, Redo.
Feel the moment as it rushes by. See it coming closer as you jump in the deepest portion. Hope it will be alright. Begin the process and repeat the motion. Keep us close as a tie. The sail was drugs, so you.
And it's just great to come out of that sub bass there. It's a different sound because of the amount of sub bass we have in the mix so far, but just that brightness there kind of ties it back to some of the previous elements in the album.
Is what it always was. You knew this. Live just to give me a buzz from substances. We do it all. Feel the moment as the world passes by. You see it coming closer. As you jump in the deepest ocean. Hope it will be alright. Begin the process to repeat emotion. Keep us closest to time. They say what's stronger, so beautiful. I know it's when I think of you. I get high.
Ah, going back into the drums on the fader. Cool. That one kind of felt like a different track in regards to the rest of the album. I don't think it's like a by itself, it's not an okay track. I'm just gonna have a quick look through the lyrics and we'll talk about it in a moment. So with Redo, I just want to first of all mention that there's like a producer tag that gets played throughout the track at various moments. That's not something that'll be in the final version of this track. It's just at the moment, that's just as part of like the demo for this track, if that makes sense. You know, they often have producer tags and beats and stuff like that, and then they will like remove them for like the final version of stuff. But I think that outside of that, I think this is a song where it kind of fits into the album. A lot of the textures and timbres, they sound similar, and they do niche well, I think, with the sort of like tracks we've had so far. It's a track where, after looking through the lyrics, I get the impression that it's about sort of like how we deal with the world's issues and the uncertainty of the waves coming towards us. But we're also talking about another person within this track, and we're sort of talking about, like, they say like the drugs slowed them down, but then like when I think of you, I get high. So is it that we're kind of like dealing with the life that a person should have lived, the things that sort of like made their life not go well, but then also we've maybe learned that the way the other person dealt with problems is the way that we dealt with them, that like we rely on substances or something like that to get by. I'm not sure. Either way, it's an interesting song. Redo as in like wanting to get like another chance at it, to be able to get another go at it, I suppose, though maybe to relive the life we could have lived or something like that, wanting to be able to do that, and struggling with the fact that we might not get a second chance to do things. The vocals are very similar to what we've had from previous tracks. They work well. We picked distinct vocal melodies, and there was a bit of auto-tune on the vocals this time, which was kind of I think it was fine. If we were going with the 808s there, I think there was an 808 in the low end, which kind of made the vocals sound a little bit more, it just sounded like almost we'd had like a remix of an original track there. And I think that it does work. It works fine. Like there wasn't any uncomfortable moments within the piece itself. They did niche relatively well with the guitar riffs. We had the kind of dusty sounding guitar riffs, the bass line in the bottom coupled with the 808 that sort of truly reinforced those root notes. The drums there as well, which weren't there all the time. There were some moments where there was kind of eerie with the vocals and guitar, but then we had like a groove like in the fade out at the end there where we worked with some 8th or 16th note grooves, the offbeat snares, and you know, for 2 minutes 35 I think it was quite well fleshed out. We had a lot of real estate to like used to be able to get the story across that we needed. And I feel like it is a story about looking back, and it's not a particularly happy thing that they're sort of reminiscing on. That they struggle to maybe think of this person that they used to know. But it's still, I think it's a well-written track, and yeah. Because we're at the halfway point of the album now, almost, with Choices, track number 6.
Most important things in life are not really things. Happiness cannot be found by truth, it's always bleak. Ask your questions for a price and crack your smile through your teeth. Past the end of by some miles, that's where you find your dreams. Now I've been here for a while and the dreams still serve
there more 808s or more basses here? Just a heavy bass guitar.
Shift and change will fit right into place. All decisions that you make and not all be called your mistakes. You must wait here for another to love you and you'll escape. Based on how you treat each other is how we determine.
Yeah, we're committing to the auto-tune. That's fine. Lander or phaser on the guitar isn't inspired. Yeah, okay, so we're fully committing to like the mid-tune kind of style at this point. That's fine. I like that we're trying to sort of do more than just one track with it. It kind of anchors it and gives it more of a kind of how do I describe it? It makes it seem like it's more of a permanent fixture, which almost seems like we're sort of evolving as we develop the track. So my understanding of Choices is that it's a track about someone who is aware, maybe following on from Redo, the choices that have gotten you to this point in life. You almost feel like you don't necessarily have a choice because of certain situations that other people have made. We're also sort of having to sort of be honest with ourselves with what we're capable of, and there's a lot of venom inside of us, and we just are sort of struggling with again, like we talk about flush, we might be struggling with purging that out of ourselves. We might be trying to sort of get all that kind of funk out of us without necessarily having questioned why it is that is there in the first place. So I think that choices are, yeah, I'm also wondering if this is to do with like parents, because we talk about children share your fate. So whether it's like a cycle of abuse or something like that, and that's where the venom is, and it's figuring out whether or not we can let go of that venom or not. Choices is an interesting piece. Again, we've got that kind of melodic kind of synthy texture to the voice lines there, which I think are going to be a staple of other tracks, and that's totally fine if we want to go in that way. If we dig it, that's great. Again, it's not to like fix the vocal performances, to sort of make it a bit more kind of like, it's a stylistic choice there, and I think it's okay. It doesn't sort of like color the guitars, bass, drums in a way which seems like sort of strange or alienating there. I think that the guitar parts we had there, again, there's more of the similar kind of power chords and maybe bar chords and distorted kind of crispy elements there, but there's also a little bit of flanging and phasing going on certain parts there that makes it a little bit sort of like the oscillation, the slow oscillation of that is a little bit more sort of mysterious. Bass lines underneath kind of driving along at a similar pace, you know, working with those eighth notes there. The drum lines accenting the eighth note grooves with some interesting 16th note patterns on the snares and stuff like that for fill transitions as well were tight. This was a well fleshed out piece of music, and I think, again, we're trying to sort of make little changes as we go through to kind of keep things relatively consistent whilst still trying to sort of make each track unique. I think that it was great to have points of emphasis on the vocals, accenting certain lines as well for effect there. And we also harmonized between the clean and sort of like modulated vocals there to sort of provide contrast and sort of like a bigger sort of sound there, which is great, which as well has kind of grounded things a little bit in a way that was quite positive. Well, past the halfway point now, we have Sweet and Bitter, track number 7.
Arms are stretched and my feet are bound. Love scream, feeling like you come around.
We've listened to this, haven't we?
I mean, if you're safe and sound, now that everyone's screaming, you can sing out loud.
I think we've listened to this track. Very used to different time sticks there. And the meta tune there, cool. Yeah. It's heavy. I like the balance of different vocal styles with the guitar, bass, and drums like that. Very tight mix though. Coming down with that. Cool. All right, that was Sweet and Bitter, track number 7 for today. Smashing through this album at the moment. Having a good time with it. I think this is probably one of my favorite tracks off the album so far. I appreciated the mixture of different vocal styles there with the metatune stuff going on with the sort of main sort of like higher and the sort of more grittier kind of vocals as well in parts there. We staged and phrased and layered them well. The guitar riffs as well with the rhythm parts, the cleaner parts going to the more distorted kind of heavier elements there. The drums and bass kicking in as well, really ferocious in that mid-range. We had clear distinction between parts, and we also had a guitar solo in there, as I understand, which was kind of cool. It was nice to have a bit of an instrumental variety there. I like when we have an alternate lead in a piece. There was enough range with the different sort of drum patterns and bass. Well, not necessarily the bass, because that was sort of more supportive, but that's kind of the fundamental sort of function of a bass a lot of the times to reinforce those root notes. The song at 3 minutes 20 had enough diversity structurally for it to be intriguing, and we had a song where it was effectively, I think it was about relationships, the sweet and bitter, the pros and cons of being in a situation when you're in love with someone, waiting for them to be a different person, sort of like the lust you feel for someone and that sort of strong pull, but also like the consequences of that. The pros and pros and kind of going between there, and the dedication required in order to make it work potentially, or the dedication to that person, wanting someone to be dedicated to you in order to get that. I feel like I need more time with the story from that. I also wonder whether we're talking about the chance, the risk we have on that merry-go-round, and just sort of like which end we'll go. We'll take the spin again, we'll see whether it's worth falling in love again or whatever. I'm not sure. Like, it could be a few different things, but I nonetheless appreciated the story, the way that the vocal performance came together with the instrumental sections there. The motifs were catchy. They were great to listen to. Bit of edge to them, but nothing wrong with that. Really solid track, number 7, in line with a lot of the rest. And again, we've sort of really instantiated that vocal processing in a way where it kind of feels like a part of the album now, which is cool. But we've got track number 7, or 8, Mental Psoriasis, with 14,000 plays. drums are dominant, man. AB, man. Very well having the vocals on the side as well. Hang on.
Tell me, what would you do if you were lost? Love, mid across to be saved, to flee, to think righteous. Jesus Christ.
It was great to have the drums just go out and just have the vocals there. It was awesome, man. I feel like that cutoff was a little bit too severe, though. We could have potentially had it kind of be as loud until the end of that stanza, if I'm not mistaken. Still, interesting track, Mental Psoriasis. Dope. So I think that Mental Psoriasis is more sort of discussing when people become sort of crippled by their own mentalities. It's maybe the rougher end of the stick with like dealing with the chance of things going wrong. You inevitably kind of get stuck in a place where you don't think anything can improve and you become sort of like in your own box that you've created. I think that's what we're discussing here. Maybe the verse sections are more alliterating on how we got to here in the first place or alluding to that. But either way, I think that these are stories that people will relate to an extent. Maybe not immediately, but there'll be an audience of people who think about it and go, oh yeah, I kind of get what they're saying here. And I think that it's powerful music in part because of that. It's not only sort of raw to the person telling it, but it's also stuff that is not exclusive. The track featured, again, a great mixture of different arpeggiated chordal guitar riffs there as per a lot of the other tracks within it. At 2 minutes 18, it was quite short and sweet. There were several different chorus and like the main sort of like verse they're telling that sort of extrapolating the context. It was also great to have a guitar solo between those sections there. It wasn't super complicated, but it was enough again to have an alternate lead to what we had before, and I appreciate the fact we're trying to have that range on that. Even if it is a shorter track, we're not leaving any filler in there. The vocal melodies were distinct and easy to follow along to. They harmonized really neatly, whether they were the heavier parts of distorted guitar, bass, and drums coming in, or the sort of like more sort of cleaner part elements there in the verses. And we also had a moment near like just before the final chorus there where things sort of really cut out, and we kind of let things hang a little bit, and the story was even more poignant and more sort of like perceptible because of that. And then to go full bore back into that chorus at the end was powerful as well. It's just that big boost there, and we're kind of clapping back for that final take there. Great range compositionally, and overall, yeah, it's solid. Number 9, shirts, pants, shoes. Let's do it. Filling it stereo field like that, nice.
Shirts, pants, shoes. Shirts, pants, shoes. Shirts, pants, shoes. Shirts, pants, shoes. As they say,
Oh, that tone is feral, man, but I love it.
sad to say I've heard the story, but there is no choice to choose. A follow, but I'm stuck at the crossroads. A path I must follow, but I'm stuck at the crossroads. Shirts, pants, shoes. Shirts, pants, shoes.
Interesting choice to focus on this hook line here a second time around like this.
Shirts, pants, shoes. Make me choose between options. I will take all your abuse. Back and forth, as we both argue, I have not much to lose. Not my fault, for my purpose, and I will now weigh up. Shirts, pants, shirts, shirts, pants, shoes. Shirts, pants, shirts, shirts, pants, shoes. A path I must follow, but I'm stuck at the crossroads. A path I must follow, but I'm stuck at the crossroads. I'm stuck at the crossroads, but I'm stuck at the crossroads. Stuck at the crossroads. I'm stuck at the crossroads.
I like how it comes down with the bass of the outro though. It's a pretty sweet fade out. Is he playing with a pick? Is that fingerstyle or pick? I mean, either way, it's fine. I can kind of hear a pick tone on that. I think it's cool if we're using a pick. You get more definition a lot of the time using a bass pick anyways. Okay, so I think that Shirts, Pants, and Shoes, just after quickly checking through the lyrics, is about someone who is being told to wear or do certain things and they've been given clear instructions and maybe they want to sort of integrate, but they don't necessarily, they're at a crossroads and they're kind of deciding whether they actually really want to or not. And they'll cop the abuse of other people in order to kind of go with what's right. And there's pressure for them to go one way, they want to go another. And it's almost like paralyzing because of how much the consequences on either side are going to be. And I think the reason we're focusing on Shirts, Pants, Shoes, both in the verse as well as in parts of the chorus, is because it's just such an important choice for us to make. We're really kind of struggling to come to agreement with that, to really sort of make a decision. We don't have to always make an eloquent, educated, intelligent sort of like, I'm not saying it's unintelligent music. What I mean is we don't have to over-explain our situation there. We can allude to it without doing too much sort of spoon-feeding and hand-holding. And you kind of get the piece of the puzzle here with the information that's provided there. And I think that we have more of a kind of somber feel to the verse, like in a lot of these tracks there. And then we have, again, heavier chorus sections with the guitarist, bass, and drums coming in there and kind of slapping away. And that guitar tone in that chorus is especially kind of intense there. It's this distortion, it's brutal. And I think that the way we really kind of, we are calling out at the end with the vocal performance there. We're really kind of putting our heart and soul into it. And we're really kind of trying to elaborate or sort of emote in a way that sort of illustrates the frustration whilst remaining musical, and going down to the bass at the end just kind of brings everything down to the floor after we've been sort of like been pummeled by the riffs for a while. I think that it's a song that's really straightforward and easy to understand and sing along to. It's meant to be sort of more of a kind of I like something you can kind of Shirts, Pants, Shoes. You can kind of sing along to those lines whilst they sing it there. It's meant to be one of those kind of tracks, and it works in that respect. We've got say to there is what? What is there to say? Backwards? I thought I was having a moment there.
Maybe life is better. I mean, it's better to be broken, not true than no lies. Rather to be better than happy than I'm fine. Always misgiving true, not a pain that's inside. I'm thinking of starting a fire. Think I'll try to find straight from the Bible. To my grandma, she said she was ashamed. She then said that we're followed by angels. Just as long as I don't forget to pray. Put a map before I require. It's something I think I can't replace. Just some pets that I want to tire. That will never ever be the same. I'm thinking of starting a fire. Think I'll try to find another way. No questions of what I desire. Yeah, what is that you say?
I'm liking these guitar solos in this album. It's great to have multiples.
Maybe love is better than I really realize. Better to be broken by truth and no lies. Rather to be better than Ant-Man than I'm fine. Always misconstrued by the pain that's inside. I'm thinking of storm.
Great vocal fry here as well.
I'll try to find another way. The questions of what I desire. Yeah, what is that you say? What is that you say?
What is there to say?
What is that you say? What is that you say? What is that you say?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm feeling the quite quick fade outs in this. We could have potentially. Usually we have a fade out and we kind of have like a lead section on a guitar that comes after it, and we kind of fade that out or something. There's like a kind of a follow on that we don't need to have for the entire time. But if we're also feeling like we kind of want to fade it out, that's fine too. It's like a stylistic thing, right? So I think we've been talking about praying a bit, and I think we talked about our grandparents talking about, you know, like, as long as angels follow us, they'll follow us as long as we pray. So I'm wondering is what there as to what is talking about realizing that life is not what we think it is. What is there to say? Understanding that our life is things aren't as bad as we think it is, or that it's our choice to try and improve things, or that maybe praying isn't enough in order to be able to make things better. Maybe it's talking about the juxtaposition of, like, you know, our belief sets sometimes encumbering our ability to actually make tangible improvements by relying on external forces that we can't control. I look at the previous tracks throughout this album, and maybe we're sort of making an overall comment on our capacity as a human being to sort of like try and improve our life. What is there to say? Just getting down and doing things. I'm not quite sure, but I mean, either way, I think that this is a song where we've got a really comfortable place with how we present our guitar, bass, and drum riffs there, with similar, I've said 8th and 16th note patterns on the kicks and snares and sort of ride and cymbal grooves there. The bass line further sort of like supporting the root notes and there, and sort of being nice and sort of friendly in that range. We've got sort of distinct guitar tones that we're bringing forward here, especially in those heavier hook sections there. We had another solo section on the guitar there that was a little bit more sort of energetic than the previous part. There was some more variations with like the rhythms of stuff, but altogether still, you know, like niched well within the arrangement and composition. And the vocals, we had distinct melodies for the verses and chorus, and they worked quite well as well. And I like that we said, what is there to say, is like a going backwards on the track itself, like kind of finding a solution by looking behind. Again, like a lot of the comments I'm making now are similar to others. We are sort of further elaborating on the overall themes within this album, which we'll talk about in the conclusion. But I appreciate the fact that we've still got 2 chapters to go. We've got Wander, number 11. And there's still a dynamic range of those guitars, which is cool.
Keep your promise, land a stranger, teach the common man some danger. Separate cost, have it made, sever your hands, pray for the Savior. I wasted, waste that waste, can't remember the
Ah, and upper harmony's nice.
Man, some danger, separate comes to havoc, man. Sever your hands, pray for the Savior. I wasted, waste and waste. Can't remember the names of the faces. Had hands to shave me with a razor. Erase your mag, fight my glass and laser. Plastic basement of sea anemones, toxic.
So it's kind of like cleans and distorted far on the sides.
Not as bad as pain. Will it ever be solved? Keeps you wondering, keep wondering, keep wondering, keep on wondering, keep wondering.
Are we chopping the guitar tones on left and right? Oh, they're wandering apart, right? Very clever. This is headphone specific there. You want to wear headphones for that part, because that's how you hear the audio literally going around the headphones. Well done.
Held as a remedy, not as bad. Think, will it ever be solved? Keeps you wondering, keep wondering, keep wondering, keep on wondering, keep wondering.
Okay, Wander, track number 11. Let's figure out what that one is about. I'm not necessarily sure about Wander. I read the lyrics, or I check out the lyrics from like the sea anemones and like toxic gases inhaled, and I'm wondering, there's several ways you could approach that. One, it's about someone who's sort of distrustful of like medicine and doesn't necessarily feel like it's helping them. And it's about people wandering away from what they feel is common sense and like trying to experiment with things they shouldn't be touching. Or whether or not it's about like someone who is sort of more oriented with simply watching someone doing that kind of thing to themselves exclusively and realize that they can't really be around that person. They're creating that bed of sea anemones for themselves there to sleep on. And they're just a stranger to them, and they maybe regret finding them in the first place. And you just get this discordant situation in that guitar solo section where the instruments sort of go apart. And it's almost like it's two people going around each other and then coming back together at the end. It's a piece where like it has a clear sense of identity and knows exactly what it's trying to aim for. itsALLCAP as a musician that knows how to create an aesthetic. They use studio recording, mixing, mastering, the production side of things, with like panning and automation of that stuff in order to sort of create an atmosphere within the piece there. And you just now have these vocal melodies and harmonies later on the track which niche well with each other. The guitars and the very sort of clean and distorted parts in the chorus are a bit of extra oomph there. And you had like, again, a kind of alternative solo section with a kind of chopping of stuff on the sides and the kind of gritty textures, intermingling with bass and drum riffs that are propellant and keep things elevated. It's a piece, it's just another solid tune. A lot of the comments I've made for this track are very sort of like similar to previous ones, so I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but it follows all the fundamentals and more, and overall there's a great sense of chemistry between the elements of the performance. We got Forever Burn though, track number 12.
Fight to survive and give your offer. An eye for an eye, and then you'll prosper. A pyramid is broken thirds. Cigarettes that forever burn. Time after time, my heart beats faster. Life on the line as that all shatters. A feeling like you've just been cursed. Instantly lifted from earth. my breath. Run, you little
Have we heard this one before?
bastard, I'm so sick of you. Go and tell your master that I sent you. Fight to survive and give your offer. Not for a night, then you'll prosper.
Why do I recognize this?
Weirdest broken thirds. Cigarettes that forever burn. Time after time, my heart beats faster. Life on the line is at all shatters. Feeling like you've just been cursed. Instantly lifted from earth. Guns, money, drugs, and sex hung over our lives. Bring us rapidly to death. Maybe you're the one who's next. It could be the one you love most. See through signs, played out commercials. Terror brings us new belief. Fix the things that break our things. Hello, Mr. President. Can you do all the things they've said? Pardon me if I digress. Can you just give me medicine? Nothing really matters. I'm so sick of you. Go and tell your masters I say fuck you. Fight to survive and give your offer. Not for a night.
I thought we were going to get heavy in that end part. You could have had the distorted guitar after that part, it would have been quite feral.
Feeling like you just been cursed. Instantly lifted from earth.
Okay, cool. No, that was great. That was another solid track. Forever Burn. Just gonna have a quick through the lyrics one more time and then we'll talk about this track and then we'll have the conclusion. Okay, so I think this track is more sort of talking about general comments about like the police and then the president looking at higher powers in the world and sort of all the things that are hung over top of us like money and sex and all that kind of stuff. We just want to have medicine and we just want to feel okay and we just want to, you know, we understand all these people are doing all this kind of unrelated kind of stuff around us. But we sort of just want to be able to live. And Forever Burn is my kind of understanding of our, just the everyday person's just trying to get through their life surrounded by all that kind of BS. That's my interpretation of that track. And I felt the fuck you that was screamed near the end. I think regardless of your political affiliation or whatever the hell, it's okay to feel that sense of frustration about the situation. You just want to scream that into the headwind. I think it would have been great to have had that distorted guitars you've had throughout the entirety of this album come into that point and kind of really kind of just kind of like boost it. Bring that 808 we had in like one of the earlier tracks in as well. Just kind of really kind of slam it, you know. Just that final bit of force for that final outro. Is to really kind of like slam the listener, get it stuck in their head, sort of get that feeling into the person to truly sort of like emphasize it. I do think, though, it's a more somber ending to this. I think it's an interesting way to finish an album, and I like the fact that we've made an album. And I just want to say before we get into the conclusion that even though I don't have a lot of unique comments that haven't already been messaged in previous tracks, I think the relative feeling over this album review is quite positive. I think if anything, just as a closing comment on Forever Burn, it's more that we kept a similar consistency with the tone, maybe because no matter how kind of frustrated or kind of angry we become, nothing potentially seems to change. So that's why the environment stays the same and we just continue to get more kind of elevated, if that makes sense. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this album from an act named itsALLCAP titled Will to Grow. I want to sort of go over my thoughts steadily on this album as there's quite a lot to take in. It was 12 tracks and that's not by any means a small accomplishment. It's really well handled. I had a really good time with the vast majority of this album. There were never any points where I thought, wow, I don't know why we're doing this. So this feels a bit alien, this feels a bit unusual. I'm not sure why these creative artistic decisions were made. Ultimately, I've spoken about what I think each of the different tracks are about during those times that I listened through them at the end of each of the little mini conclusion sections. But ultimately, I think The Will to Grow is more about discussing their actual life growing up as a child, talking to their grandparents, you know, trying to figure stuff out, wondering if they can redo the choices that they've made there, understanding their own humanity within themselves, figuring out what feels right, the choices we've made, the sweet and bitter feelings of relationships and the different sort of dopamine hits we get, etc., within ourselves and with other people. Ultimately, I think it was a track where we're not only looking at our own journey, it's just also the want to try and improve wanting to grow and be a better person and understanding what our own potential is as a human being, trying to sort of like evolve and learn from our past mistakes and work towards a brighter future. I think that's ultimately it, but also the struggles and difficulties that can be associated with that. Finding in tracks like mental psoriasis, for example, that we can find ourselves kind of indoctrinated into like the sense of learned helplessness, where we can't necessarily feel like we can make things better. And shirts, pants, and shoes, trying to sort of figure out the right path forward, even when you know what you want. It seems so obvious, but there are things that are also sort of suffocating and sort of making you stumble. I think it's a track where itsALLCAP, because itsALLCAP is the main artist and Travis Marshall is the composer. We have an album where we are trying to sort of explore ourselves, sort of show a little bit of ourselves to other people, trying to sort of create something. It's growth. It's self-development. And the vocal performances here were great. They really suited the environment, the atmosphere we were going through with like the early 90s kind of alt, kind of grunge, harder rock aesthetic there. There were also some interesting moments where we incorporated sort of more synthy textures like the meta-tuned kind of auto-tuned kind of vocals. And we also had some 808s occasionally, but it was typically drums, guitar, and bass. And our vocals were there, sort of the more kind of cleaner, gentle elements there. Some more sort of like spoken word parts. Sung in the higher ranges, a bit of vocal fry occasionally there, but a grip behind those bits of extra and added intensity there, as well as some sort of meta-tuned, auto-tuned parts there, again with the synthy textures. You just have so much range with the vocal performance. There are captivating vocal lines there in some parts there. There's repetitions of hook lines in others. There are vocal harmonies there. We stack ourselves neatly within the frequency spectrum, as well as in the stereo field. Sometimes we have vocals go right to the sides there and kind of go back and forth between center and sides there. We have an awareness of how to call and respond within the various instrumental components with our mix, with our guitars sometimes filling in between. It's not just that we have solid vocal technique, it's also that we know how to emote and express ourselves appropriately. And there are not a lot of really positive emotions shown within this. The subject matter within this album was not particularly positive for the most part. There was a lot of introspection going on here without sort of further going into each of the individual tracks we've already spoken about. But ultimately, I think that whenever we sung, it made sense for the stories we were telling, where we emoted and expressed ourselves was relevant to that as well. And I think finally, with our understanding of how to create sort of like captivating, engaging main hook lines and leads, as well as how to sort of enable a sense of storytelling within our verses, and also parts where kind of were more sort of explorative with the vocal melodies and stuff like that, wouldn't just necessarily sing, we're kind of being more sort of an additional instrument within the mix at times there. It's great. I think that we did what we needed to do here. The tracks themselves were typically between 2 minutes and 4.5, and I feel like that was long enough for each of them individually. They had a similar sort of makeup with the guitars, bass, and drums there, where they're sort of clean, kind of not like totally crispy clean, like there's a bit of grittiness to them, a little bit of dustiness to the tone there, but we really went full bore with some of the distorted elements on those guitars, and lead solos were quite well balanced there with the nice mid-ranges kind of pull. Bit of fuzziness with some guitar takes as well, like almost to a point where it's sort of exorbitant, but like in a way that never seemed too much at the same time. Bass was fairly respectful the entire time, stuck with the root notes. It was definitely more of a platforming, formative kind of thing. The bass was by itself occasionally, but it never sort of like tried to sort of take away from everything else that was going on, and I appreciate itself for that. It was foundational in the mix. And the drum lines that we had were grand in the sense that we understood the fundamentals of simply having cymbals sometimes, like some sort of pitter-patters on the right cymbals or the hi-hats, but we also knew how to sort of instantiate quarter, eighth, and 16th note grooves there that explored the kit to an extent, but were never too much. We typically, we pocketed on the drum kit. It was more about the storytelling and the vocals being the lead when there weren't one of the several guitar solos in this track here. The guitar solos, I should note, weren't just simply melodic or an alternate lead. Sometimes they would go to the sides there and there'd be like different guitar takes, and it was more or less like a guitar breakdown, an interlude kind of with the panning of it around the stereo field, which I thought was kind of neat. It's simply a case where with the drum performances there, with a sort of a great sort of sense of focus on the kit there, with occasional sort of strings kind of rising up on the sides there, and I think one of the tracks might have been divided, I'm not sure, but there was like a verse section where the second half, the strings kind of rose up in each of the two, and it just added a sense of dimensionality to the piece that I appreciated. But the 808s that came in a redo as well were kind of neat, even though they were quite a sudden change from the previous 4 tracks we'd had there to have the 808s and the meta-tune at the same time. But the 808s, I think there was more of a burst of bass response in some later tracks as well, and the fact that we kept the meta-tune as like a constant in several of the tracks afterwards cemented it and made sense within the album. I think that was really important. If you just had that one track with the auto-tune or whatever, it might have seemed a little bit sort of like stylistically kind of like it was going to be a little bit too sort of different from everything else, but no, we didn't have that issue. Ultimately, these were tracks where we had, again, that combination of guitar, bass, drums with vocals as the forefront. The themes throughout, they were somber and a lot of the time in the verse sections with the low-key guitars or simply just bass and drums, but mostly there were the sort of arpeggiated guitar riffs there. We worked with major and minor chords there. There were some Phrygian modes, some flat second power chordal bits in there. Sometimes there were chromaticisms, the sort of noisier elements there. We even explored potentially some, I think there was one track with like the Dorian mode or something like that, like a normal sixth or something like that, which was kind of trippy. And I kind of like the fact that we're messing with stuff outside of the major and minors. But we ultimately sat more in the minor key for a lot of it, and you get the feeling from the way things were done as well as the texture of the guitars and those chorus bits there being a lot more sort of bombastic and in your face, that there was a struggle that we need to go through a lot of this album. And it was a very raw album for itsALLCAP, and I appreciate the authenticity not just within the vocal performance but also within the actual music itself. We have attempts to create varied tracks in regards to their structure. We never stay on idea for too long. It never becomes dull or uninteresting. Put a lot of effort into trying to create an environment throughout the album where the songs feel connected in relation to the similarities of the textures and timbres between the instruments involved, and not having too bigger sort of viable mood shifts there. And when we do try and again introduce something like the metatune or like the 808s or whatever, like in that fifth track, we keep at it. And we don't allow it to sort of be by itself. We want to sort of have a journey as well as hear the story. And I think ultimately the chord choices, the various rhythms on the kit there, combined with the tightness of that with the bass, the color of the guitars and the vocals in the mix, as well as the occasional other elements within it, are captivating. You could have added Foley to these tracks in certain parts, but I feel like it would have taken away from the vocals. You could have added additional instruments into it. I don't think it would have necessarily improved the tracks, or I think that the lack of coloration from other instruments, especially in mid and high ranges, almost makes it feel like we're not having a sparkly, effervescent experience here. This is us kind of trying to sort of claw our way out of all these feelings, and we're trying to flush them out, and I appreciate that. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering was tight. It was not the cleanest mix I'd heard, but I think it would have been not necessarily ideal if we'd had that situation, primarily because in this kind of music, if the guitars, bass, drums, if they sound too clean, it sounds a little bit less kind of real. And you kind of need that raw, that kind of vicious tone to some of the guitar parts. You need to have things be pushed within the chorus sections with kind of things pumping against you. You need to kind of have your head kicked in a little bit by the intensity of those really loud parts in order to feel the pain that the person singing or performing is going through. And so ultimately you have a believable album, in part due to the fact that we did not try to make it sound clean. There were some rough edges to it. Some of the guitar, bass, and drum parts weren't necessarily even in their phrasing, but I think the way they come together in the quieter and loud parts are wonderful. And I've got nothing but love for the fact we put this much effort into trying to make an engaging experience. And I think we did the best we could in regards to trying to stick with our sort of genre or stylistic leanings whilst providing a more sort of like contemporary listening experience. And I think whether it was the vocals being clean or kind of a little bit more gritty or tuned, or whether it was the guitars on the sides or in the center, clean or distorted, whether it was the bass or drums, they were nicely niched within the frequency spectrum and in the stereo field. The leveling was pretty good for the most part, considering the comments I made before. There was dynamic range, to be fair. Some of the tracks ended a bit too shortly. I didn't necessarily agree with the way that some of the tracks were kind of like cut off at the end there. They kind of were blunted a little bit. I feel like you could have had the chords just kind of dun 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 and kind of end like that. A bit of kind of like extra sassiness to it. But basically, I'm pretty happy with this album. This is my review of this album from an act named itsALLCAP, titled Will to Grow, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.